In this video, we're going to talk about how to pass the MPRE on your first try. So I want to state the obvious because I think it's important. While failing the MPRE is not the end of the world, passing it on your first try is a really great thing too. And this is because there are some obvious perks of passing the MPRE on your first try. It will save you time, it's going to save you money, and potentially possible embarrassment from having to, say, re-prepare and take the exam again. But additionally, something that's often very overlooked is the fact that when you pass the MPRE on your first try, especially when you walked into that exam having a really good framework for preparation, you are going to find yourself that much more confident walking into your bar exam prep. So again, by taking the MPRE seriously and having a really good foundation for how to prepare for an exam, it's just going to make you better off in the long run because, of course, the bar exam is likely not that far around the corner for you. So how can you prepare and what can you do to make sure that you pass the MPRE on your first try? Well, first things first, if you can, take professional responsibility in law school. Of course, the MPRE tests the model rules of professional conduct. And you might find that your professors in law school are not testing the model rules or even teaching the model rules of professional conduct. They might be teaching and or testing your state-specific rules. But that's okay. This is because most states have adopted in part or even possibly in whole most of the ABA model rules. So by taking PR in law school, it's going to provide you with an excellent foundation for the basics of these rules. Even if you find yourself having to learn some differences between your state-specific rules and the model rules, that's okay. It's still an added benefit. Our second tip is just registering early. This is not so much having to do with what you do with your time, but instead just deciding and making a game plan for taking this exam. A lot of people decide to take the MPRE at the last minute, and they might find themselves having to take this exam at a test center that's not super convenient for them, which usually means having an added commute to and from the exam on exam day. So by registering early and having a game plan in place, you're likely to take this at a location that is more convenient for you. So in the long run, that means less stress and less time. Our third tip is to start studying early. I know that this is a hard exam for a lot of people to get motivated for, but the reality is you should think long and hard before you register for the MPRE. Take a look at your class schedule, your personal commitments, and decide if it's something that you can feasibly tackle. So for instance, if you think you can handle it and you're feeling motivated to cycle in some study time, how early should you start? Well, for most people, that's a very personal answer. You might find that you have a lot going on in the weeks leading up to the MPRE. So that means you should probably start earlier. So that way you're not saving all of this information to be crammed into a short window of time. On the other hand, you might find that you don't necessarily have a hectic schedule leading up to the MPRE, and maybe then you can start studying just a few weeks before. But the key is that you're taking it seriously, you're reflecting on your own schedule, and you're starting as early as you need to. Our fourth tip is to study smart. And honestly, this is a tip you can implement in all of your studying for any exam. So when we say study smart here, essentially, all of the rules of the ABA model rules of professional conduct are not tested equally. So for instance, the rules of judicial conduct are roughly 2 to 8% of your total exam, whereas our conflict of interest rules are 12 to 18% of your total exam. And the reason I point this out is because in our outline, there's a lot of information that needs to be explained about the judicial rules of professional conduct, and it takes up a healthy amount of our outline. Now, a lot of people spend a ton of time here. And of course, I would never ever recommend that you skip anything in preparation for an exam. But the reality is if someone doesn't have a lot of time to study and they had to choose or cut some corners about how they allocated time, I would recommend that they just study smart. They spend more time on, say, the conflict of interest rules, which compose a major amount of your exam. They're the most highly tested area of the rules, versus judicial conduct. That makes up only 2 to 8% of your exam. So again, by focusing on highly tested areas of those rules, you're going to find that you're maximizing your study time and increasing your chances of success. Our fifth tip is that you should practice some questions in preparation for this exam. So it's okay to do some made-up questions, which basically every major bar review course offers, including us. But additionally, you should try your hand at real released questions. If you're looking for where to purchase those, you can get them from the National Conference of Bar Examiners themselves or us. We also sell those questions and we make them available for purchase. And then our last tip is to simply get familiar with test day policies. Because this is a standard proctored exam, we want to make sure that you've read the test day security policy so that you know what to expect when you are walking in to the building or the testing facility. Having any sort of last minute surprises can be very stressful, and honestly, it's avoidable. So make some time leading up to the exam to read the security and test day policies so that you know exactly what's expected of you. Best of luck on the upcoming MPRE.